episode of Rest is Noise. Um, I wish the rest was noise. uh, so I guess we have seen. Do you feel like the wars का भी ना? It's such a weird and insensitive thing to say, but जिस तरह से क्रिकेट टेस्ट के बाद वनडे और वनडे के बाद T20 हो गई थी. आई फील लाइक अब वॉर्स भी उसी तरह से हो रही हैं. 10 दिन की लड़ लो, 2 दिन
क्विक
की
एंड
लड़ लो,
फास्ट
क्विक एंड फास्ट.
या अब तो वो कुछ लोग वो भी कहते हैं कि आफ्टर एआई जो है वो वॉर्स जो हैं वो लाइक सेकंड्स पे स्पैन करेंगे. लाइक देयर विल बी लाइक अ डिजिटल ऑफेंसिव फ्रॉम वन साइड एंड द अदर साइड, और फिर एलएलएम्स जो है वो निगोशिएट करेंगे एंड देन दे विल सेटल लाइक विद इन माइक्रो सेकंड्स. दे विल सेटल कि तुम्हारा ये नुकसान हो गया, तुम्हारा ये नुकसान हो गया, लेट्स बैक डाउन, और नेगोशिएशन होंगे एंड एवरीथिंग लाइक सेटल्ड विद इन लाइक अंडर अ मिनट.
That sounds lunatic. But I don't know which is worse. So
Yeah.
like, who am I to say that? Um, so last time हमारी जो conversation हुई थी वो यही हुई थी कि Israel started preemptive war, और जो है उसके बाद back and forth हमने काफी ज्यादा compromises देखे Iranian soil पर. हमने देखा कि कुछ attacks inside से launch हुए हैं. We saw a lot of that, and the conversation was, I hope you guys get to understand the view from outside. So वो एक conversation थी. अब हमारी जो read थी उस time वो ये थी कि we didn't know, so it could have been a may and a maybe for US to join in.
Yeah.
Because you were saying कि कुछ openly कहा नहीं जा रहा था. एक back foot पे they were playing, they were weighing their options and everything. And then on Saturday,
Yeah, it
yes,
was
on
Sunday.
Saturday
It was Sunday early morning in
in
Iran.
Iran, and it was Saturday evening here. I think it was around like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
7 p.m. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Between that time, we found out that they have done an operation, and they attacked all 3 sites. They
Yeah.
used like, again, it's the conversation we already had. KG, they have this bomber B2 which can penetrate through like a mountain where Fudo is located. And that was the thing that they have been talking about to use, and that was used. And I think it was a very interesting documentary. I'll definitely like share the link that Ali shared, that how it does not get tracked. It's like a ghost of the air. Very interesting thing to see. But जो चीज़ हमने बड़ी interesting देखी वो ये थी कि Trump tweeted. Of course, that's how we find out stuff now.
Yeah.
So he tweeted that के operation हो गया successfully and armed forces have left Iran, which I'm honestly hats off to his team who stopped him not doing that during while they were there.
Yeah, they waited till their
Usually that's how what the protocol is, but
Yeah.
with him, I'm very amazed that they managed to keep him hold it, to not do like tweet while live
Yeah,
tweets what's
it was
happening there.
after the mission. It was reported that a lot of their internal team was also not aware that it's happening. It was very like close circle that was aware
Are you
that the
saying the
operation was
president
going
had
on.
no idea until everything happened and they told him later? They
No, the
didn't tell him the
president
time?
had idea, but a lot of these people did not have trust in their own
Oh, yeah.
party
They were
members.
tweeting no leaks as like it's a trophy. So, yeah, so that happens, and the whole, and then the next 48 hours started happening where everybody was speculating, are we, like, is US in war with Iran? Like, what is going to be the other sides and everything? How were you? Well, I was with you at that point, so I know how you received the news, but what was, I want to know what you thought once you started reading about it and started looking into it.
Yeah, so I discovered through your WhatsApp while I was driving.
Yeah.
Uh, like I just read that four-letter word, and I there was like a snapshot in the notification, and I knew most likely what has happened. So talking about the operation itself, uh, so it started off with a news that started circling, and it was the news was pushed out on purpose. They used like a bunch of B2s as a decoy, and they
Hmm.
were headed towards Guam. And some online Twitter accounts were actively reporting about it, and it was known that they were headed towards Guam.
Yeah, I think 21 hours ago, before that's happened, there's some guy who actually uh, tweeted from Warsaw, saying that he has seen B to be going towards east.
Yeah. Uh,
Very Osama bin Laden, like spotting the helicopter movement kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But they were like it. The information was correct. They were headed towards Guam, but
Yeah.
the only thing is that they were decoy, and right after that, there were another bunch of B2s with assisting fighter jets. Like seven B2s in total. So they were
Hmm.
collectively. So each of them is capable of carrying like two of those bunker busters. So like seven were
Hmm.
collectively carrying like 14 bunker busters in total. They headed straight towards Iran, and they dropped the payload as Donald Trump shared in his tweet, and later on the satellite images showed like like 12 of them were dropped on Fordo,
Hmm.
and the other two were probably dropped on Natanz. So those were the two
Yeah.
sites, and right when they were dropping those bombs, some cruise missiles, Tomahawk cruise missiles, were fired from their submarine located in the Caspian Sea. Um, and they targeted Isfahan most likely. And after all of that operation, as soon as the strike package, as they call it in the military terms, cleared the Iranian airspace, Donald Trump tweeted that they have, quote unquote, obliterated nuclear assets, Iranian nuclear assets, and they were on their way home, and they they haven't
Basically, they have
experienced
left the
like
Iranian territory. Yeah.
yeah, any scratch, all safe, called it a massive success, and then immediately called for peace, end of war, and everything. And at that moment, like everyone, and actually, if you had opened New York Times when that happened, New York Times, like front page was US enters another Middle East war,
East
like
war.
big header they were running, and they were running like a news feed underneath that. And that was like most people's opinion, because most people thought at that time that now what's going to happen is Iran's going to retaliate, and that's going to trigger a Middle East war. But that did not happen. By that, I mean Iran did retaliate, but it was in a lot of ways measured. And I am like 100% sure US was taken into confidence before that.
Well, Trump tweeted it. He said they told us
Absolutely.
before it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also like you just have to look at the nature of attack.
Yeah.
They sent like
And it was
more,
empty.
yeah, 15 plus missiles they fired. All of them were intercepted except for one, which was
One.
let hit some open space in which they didn't have any asset or personnel. So US called it harmless, and that gave US the to say to their public, okay, it's a nothing burger. We can just move on. Iran has had their strike, and Iranian could pitch to their people that US attacked us. We have retaliated. So both sides had a victory, and Trump saw it. That basically concluded the much awaited Iranian response, since the US strikes happened inside 48 hours. So it was quick. So it had all the elements that could be appealing for the native Iranians. But once it was all done, the following day, Trump tweeted that we have, like, both Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire. He shared like a detailed plan. Like there is gonna be like 12 hours of ceasefire, and then there are gonna be intervals within which one side will first back off and then the other side will back off. Um, so that was the start of it, and then a lot of the people at that point did not have confidence that it's actually gonna happen, but
Mm-hmm.
it did materialize at the end. So I'm gonna pause here,
Mm-hmm.
and what I would like you to comment about is how how do you see this this kind of ceasefire, how it was kind of managed by the US. We like it's safe to say here that US pushed it onto both of them,
Yeah.
right? And what do you make of the press interactions that Trump has had since then?
Acha, so like it was very bizarro, the whole situation was, because you kind of entered into a war and then you sent like post this whole message, and I was like, oh, I got a ceasefire date, and 12 बजे वो शुरू कर देंगे और 12 घंटे के बाद वो दूसरे शुरू कर देंगे, and then they all have to wind up. um I definitely think Trump forced it on them, and I feel like both side पे थोड़ी face saving थी, करनी
Hmm.
थी उन्होंने, क्योंकि अब as the conversation we have been having in past couple of days, और जो भी आप देख रहे हो और जो भी reports आ रही हैं, आप like you look at Wall Street Journal, you look at Washington Times, you look at New York Times, you see any of these papers, um, दोनों साइड पे काफी ज्यादा compromises थे. ऑन इसराइल साइड पे उनकी इन्वेंट्री का इशू था, उनको इकोनॉमिकली बहुत कॉस्ट कर रहा था. दूसरी साइड पे अगेन इकोनॉमिकली भी कॉस्ट कर रहा था. दे डू हैव अ फेयर ऑफ सिविल वॉर काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन, तो वो भी एक चीज थी. इसके
They
अलावा
were
आपके
also
पास
protecting the regime.
दे आर ऑल्सो प्रोटेक्टिंग द रिजीम. आपकी एक हाई ऑफिशियल्स, हाई एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, सारी की सारी मिलिट्री निकल चुकी है. आप हाउ लॉन्ग विल यू बी एबल टू सस्टेन? एंड आई अंडरस्टैंड कि उनको भी आइडिया तो होगा किसी हद तक कितनी है सिचुएशन बुरी. um, बट इन ऑल ऑफ दिस आई फेल्ट लाइक कि दोनों तरफ से एक एक चीज थी कि दे डिडंट वांट इट टू कम आउट टू देयर कंट्रीज. बिकॉज अब मैं अल जजीरा की पूरी कवरेज पढ़ रही थी, और उसमें जो ओपिनियंस आर्टिकल्स थे, उनमें मोस्टली यही कन्वर्सेशन हो रही थी कि दे बोथ डोंट वांट देयर कंट्रीज टू लाइक पीपल टू थिंक दैट America forced it on them. They want it to be somehow look like that they have made the decision of the timing. So
Similar
they
kind of problem जो इंडिया फेस कर रहा था.
exactly, so they keep on bombing each other for a while.
Hmm.
और फिर मतलब आपके इराक में भी बेसिस के ऊपर हमले हो रहे थे, और जो है इसराइल ने भी जो उनकी ईरान की में जो जेल है उसके ऊपर दे फायर्ड मिसाइल्स, इन्होंने भी उस साइड पे किया. इनिशियली ऑफ कोर्स लाइक we saw that Israel started violating first, but again both side पे, और एक बहुत strict orders थे to from Netanyahu to every minister that you are on a chokehold. You're not gonna say a single word about ceasefire. And the same thing was happening with Iran. They weren't saying anything. Even unki jo tweets aa rahi thi unke foreign minister ki, it was completely like, no, there's no ceasefire. There's nothing new. अगर उन्होंने escalate करना बंद कर दिया तो हम भी करना छोड़ देंगे. That
Hmm.
was the conversation that keep on happening. Um, so, I mean, I could see where what they were trying to do. It most of like face saving, as you said, Kate, was a very popular war for Israel.
Yeah.
Um, so and again, it was a lifeline for Netanyahu. So uska, again, I feel like it बहुत ज़्यादा push था उसकी तरफ से. बाकी Trump's frustration, I think because he wants people to do what he tells them to do. So it was definitely coming from that place, and he also don't shy away from calling out people. So उसके लिए ये कोई मसला नहीं था कि अच्छा इसराइल है तो मुझे नहीं कहना.
Yeah, he
Uh,
was like he was absolutely angry there, like
yeah,
100%. He was dropping the f bombs. He was like
bombs.
super pissed, like telling in, like he actually pointed out the incident. वो basically ये था कि Iran, they fired a missile जो कि सीज फायर के 15 मिनट बाद जाके लगा. ईरान का क्लेम था कि भाई वो हमने फायर सीज फायर होने से पहले कर दिया था, वो
पहले
लगा
कर दिया
बाद में है. और डोनाल्ड ट्रंप like said it landed in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't
था वे.
something based on which Israel could, go like all guns blazing on Iran after the
Exactly.
ceasefire. So that was basically the point where Trump was like super angry. और उसके बाद से I think it became like Israel started feeling this risk of probably we should not annoy this man any further. और उसके बाद जो है हेरिट्स ने रिपोर्ट किया कि they had their like Israeli leadership had their internal meeting जिसके
Yes.
अंदर finally at that point uh, Netanyahu to his team basically opened this thing that हम ये ceasefire कर रहे हैं and we are not going to like for any further escalation. And he basically mentioned to his team कि अब तुम लोग अपने like जो statements में हैं you should consider that. और उसकी जो internal reports है उस मीटिंग के उसके मुताबिक उनके जो like जो extreme right wing leaders हैं Ben Gavir और Smotrich, they were like super pissed at
Yes.
Netanyahu के हमें ये नहीं करना. Like they wanted to further this war. और
Yes.
the reason for that is because again Harrods did like a poll a couple of days ago जिसके अंदर उन्होंने बताया था कि इस वक्त इसराइल में war against Iran is absolutely popular,
Yeah.
or the war against Gaza is not popular at all. So they wanted to drag this thing as much as they can, one for their political gains, and the other for whatever ambitions that they have in Gaza for
Gaza. So
future.
they can distract people for
Yeah.
that from that. Yeah.
So yeah, that was all that was happening. But eventually, I think it was like Trump has had enough. There were also reports of like Trump had like one-to-one conversation with Netanyahu where
Yeah.
he basically schooled him. It was like all the time Trump talking and him listening that we have had enough of this and this should stop. So I think Trump had made it pretty clear that US has had enough of this Iranian conflict and they wanted Israel out of it. And at that point, I think they had no choice. They Is there a possibility that in a couple of weeks' time we could see something happening on that front again? Maybe, but at this point, I think Israel is seeing like a clear anger on the US side that they are probably not going to support them and they're not risking like any further opposition from them, you can say.
Um,
So that was that. If you want to add anything further to it, or should we move to the New York Times story about the
I want to talk a little bit about the reaction that the political and civil society had in US of attack on Iran. आपने देखा कि Democrats and just generally few of the Republicans, they came out and they were like, dude, you cannot bypass Congress over this, and you didn't talk to us and everything, which is funny to me because, well, Obama has done that. Um, uh, Democrats also have this, like, there are certain Democrats who were trying to, like, ride the moral high horse, while there are Times of Israel and the Jerusalem Post
But not
both
all of them, right? Like there were only like a few because that was
yeah,
like a major thing that was kind of bypassing the constitution. If you're
yeah,
अगर आप जंग पे
uh,
जा रहे हैं और आपने आपका कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कहता है कि इट हैज टू हैपन थ्रू
be
कांग्रेस
passed
और आप
from
उसको
Congress, yeah.
बाईपास करते हैं तो
But the Jerusalem Post and the Times of Israel both have reported that if you're, it, I feel like the morality angle was funny to me because if you are worried about the constitution, I get that, but you're trying to put it a morality angle. तो वो उन दोनों ने रिपोर्ट किया था कि बाइडेन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पे बेसिकली इन एयर स्ट्राइक्स की जो ईरान पे हुई हैं उसकी ड्रिल्स लास्ट ईयर हो चुकी थी.
Yeah, that started, yeah, in Biden administration. Yeah, true.
Yeah. So they knew exactly what was the plan, and there was like a whole thing already being done with jointly with the Air Force. There's also one thing that I want to say is कि मैं अभी भी I think there's something that's it's not sitting well with me despite कि हमने इतना कुछ देख लिया पिछले कुछ दिनों में. 125 एयरक्राफ्ट्स थे वो ईरान की एयर स्पेस में आए या करीब आए फॉर दिस ऑपरेशन. चलें B2 नहीं लोकेट हो सकता था, बट द अदर्स nothing get located.
Yeah. I think the answer to that is, और उसमें like it's a massive military failure. और वो था
Mm-hmm.
जो last October में when Israel uh, and Iran exchanged those strikes, जब Iran fired these barrage of missiles towards Israel. उससे पहले जो Israel ने strikes की थी, they took out majority of their air defense systems, जिसमें
Mm-hmm.
mostly Russian S-300 है. Now that वो S-300 had been damaged since last October. Imagine that.
October.
So that means their military in their calculus had 0% of an Iranian strike in an
Mm.
environment जहाँ पे CIA was openly saying, like वो अपनी गवर्नमेंट को constantly communicate कर रहे थे कि Israel has made plans to go against Iran, whether US उनका साथ देता है या नहीं देता. Imagine इस environment के बावजूद Iranian military or whoever was in charge there failed to have their air defenses repaired in time. सो आपके वो नहीं थे एंड देन जो पहले 2 दिन में पूरे इस पूरी वॉर के हुआ है, जिस तरह इसराइल ने उनके अंदर लाइक टोटली लाइक इंटेलिजेंस वाइज पेनिट्रेशन थी, दे टुक आउट मेजॉरिटी ऑफ देयर एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम. सो देयर एयर डिफेंस after those 2 days was virtually non-existent. So it wasn't a
Existent.
matter of like very high-tech F-35s. In majority of the space, even if they were flying like F-16, it would have like flown without
Mm.
any resistance or of any kind. Like the ADS did not exist at all. That was the issue.
Yeah, yeah, that's why they keep on saying that they owned the Tehran's airspace the whole time. Uh, yeah, let's move to the next thing.
The Enver Times. Yes. So today is Wednesday when we are recording this. I think it
Yes.
was yesterday when New York Times came out with this story where they shared this internal Pentagon assessment. So Pentagon ने
Yes.
internally एक assessment रन की जिसके अंदर उन्होंने बताया लाइक उसको अगर लाइक वन लाइनर बताया जाए तो दैट वाज के हम लोगों ने ईरान का जो न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम है वो एट बेस्ट पुश किया है बाय लाइक 6-7 months. तो अगर हम इसको
Mm-hmm.
लें एंड वो न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स का आर्टिकल ये डिस्कस करता है कि बिफोर यूएस वेंट इनटू वॉर उनकी असेसमेंट ये थी कि ईरान 3 महीने दूर है फ्रॉम बिकमिंग और बिल्डिंग अ न्यूक्लियर वेपन. तो
Mm-hmm.
अगर आप ये 3 महीने और 6 महीने उसके अंदर ऐड कर लें तो ईरान इज स्टिल लाइक विद इन अ ईयर ऑफ बिल्डिंग अ न्यूक्लियर वेपन इफ दे चूज टू. सो दैट इज लाइक द
Yes.
क्रक्स ऑफ इट. उन्होंने जो उस रिपोर्ट के अंदर असेसमेंट्स दी हैं वो लाइक कुछ जो सैटेलाइट इमेजरी है कुछ दिन पहले की उसके बारे में बात करते हैं कि देर वाले बंच ऑफ ट्रक्स जो वहाँ पे मौजूद थे. तो हाईली लाइकली उनकी असेसमेंट ये है कि ईरान ने अपना जो इनरिच्ड यूरेनियम पैलेट्स थे दे हैव मोस्ट लाइकली मूव्ड देम टू अदर सिक्योर लोकेशंस. कहाँ पे वी डोंट नो.
Yes.
सो दैट्स वन थिंग. और दूसरी उनकी जो असेसमेंट है वो ये है कि दैट मीन्स फोर्डो में इस वक्त एनरिच्ड यूरेनियम नहीं है. सो व्हाट एल्स वाज देयर. we had the centrifuges there, जो
Mm-hmm.
basically uranium enrichment के लिए यूज होते
Use
हैं.
होते
Most likely they could not move them because they are pretty heavy, और वो like पूरी assembly होती है. It's hard to move through trucks.
हैं.
So वो वहीं पे थे when the strikes actually happened. So the next question is the damage of the strikes. Unki assessment, initial assessment, again, it is like based on minimal knowledge of satellite imagery and whatever little intelligence they would have had so far, because अभी तक तो Iranians ने खुद भी उसको like fully assess नहीं किया होगा. So even
Mm-hmm.
intelligence के through भी you probably do not have the full picture, but उनकी assessment ये है कि the centrifuges are still probably intact. At
Mm-hmm.
max, what we have damaged is the electrical and the circuitry system around it.
Yes.
Probably the main thing is still intact, which is basically something that Trump administration did not like. उनकी press secretary was furious and she said कि ये जिसने भी लीक की है हम उसको सबक सिखाएंगे. And their जो पीट हेगसेथ हैं उनके सिक्योरिटी इंचार्ज, ही ऑल्सो iterated something similar कि हम FBI को मोबिलाइज कर रहे हैं, हम पता लगाएंगे कि ये किसने लीक की है.
Mm.
और ट्रम्प when in the press setting so far, he has been super angry on CNN and New York Times, और वो
New York
सबको कह रहा
Times,
है कि
yeah.
ये सब बिके हुए हैं and they have no regard for the truth. And उसने वो वाली सेंटीमेंट भी इन्वोक करने की कोशिश की है कि ये जो हमारे पायलट्स की स्किल है उसको चैलेंज कर रहे
Challenge
हैं
कर रहे हैं.
and stuff like that. um yeah, so that was basically it. इसके अंदर एक और इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ जो है वो ये है कि when it all happened initially, Iran was like नहीं नहीं हमने तो मूव कर लिया है अपना यूरेनियम और हमें मिनिमल
हाँ,
डैमेज
वो
हुआ
बड़े
है.
चल के वो कहते टनल्स को मारा है इन्होंने.
बट आई थिंक कुछ अभी रिसेंट जो उनके बयान आने शुरू हुए उनके फॉरेन मिनिस्टर के, वो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. अब वो कह रहे हैं कि हमें डैमेज हुआ है. तो आई वाज
हाँ,
थिंकिंग
आई
कि
थिंक उन्होंने आपस में
लेट्स
सोचा
सपोज
कि यार.
लेट्स सपोज अगर हुआ भी है तो व्हाई वुड यू से कि हुआ है. So the most logical explanation there is they are like, हाँ यार इनको खुश करो और let's continue with our work that we were doing
Yes.
in the nuclear direction. So वो जो है वो सिर्फ दिखाने के लिए है. Like ट्रम्प जैसे बंदे को खुश करना भी आसान है ना. अब वो
Mm.
मीडिया के सामने होगा, वो कहेगा यार उनका फॉरेन मिनिस्टर कह रहा है कि हमें
Correct,
डैमेज
damn
हुआ है, तुम कौन होते हो अपनी असेसमेंट देने वाले.
it.
So yeah, that is what has been happening with the follow-ups on those strikes that happen. Most likely, future assessments will also be done by independent people, maybe the governments and intelligence communities as well. And we might probably find something more. But so far, most of the experts even have been commenting कि वो जो उन्होंने strikes की हैं. And by the way, जब ये strikes कर रहे थे इसके ऊपर भी इट वॉज रिपोर्टेड इन न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स के जो उनके जनरल्स थे उन्होंने एक रेंज दी थी कि अगर ये स्ट्राइक्स कितना डैमेज करती हैं, वी आर नॉट श्योर. एट बेस्ट वी माइट पुश इट अ फ्यू ईयर्स बैक, एट वर्स्ट वी might push it a few months back.
Uh-huh.
So like there was a level of uncertainty there. So उसी
Yeah.
की बेस पे I think they are picking like the lower bracket कि most likely इतना damage हुआ है. और their even their initial recommendation was कि अगर आपने ये करना है तो जो bomb drop करने हैं they should span days. मतलब instead of dropping one bomb after the other, we should
Uh-huh.
drop one and then wait for a day for debris to settle and then drop the next one. So ये भी एक thinking थी उस time
Mm-hmm.
पे जिसको like they wanted to like finish it quickly, like in and out type operation उन्होंने किया है. So उसके बाद
Mm-hmm.
उनकी assessment ये है कि like there is not significant damage.
Mm-hmm. I think जो so yeah, I was looking at the article and it keep on saying कि जो strikes वगैरह हुई हैं वो सारी की सारी जिस intelligence पे हुई हैं वो outdated थी. और पिछले कुछ अरसे में काफी कुछ मूवमेंट हो चुकी है. और I wanna like plug in something here कि because all of this was happening and I started watching these few documentaries that was made up about Pakistan's nuclear program at that point. And
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, हमारी 4 regimes change हुई हैं, 4 governments change हुई हैं during that time. From the time we started in 70s
हम्म
to the time जब नवाज शरीफ आता है, और वो नवाज शरीफ और बेनजीर की आई थिंक दो गवर्नमेंट्स चेंज हो चुकी थी उस टाइम पे, तो 6 गवर्नमेंट्स हमारे पास
या
चेंज हुई हैं। और हर गवर्नमेंट ने आने के बाद, और हम वी डू बिलीव देयर इज हाई एविडेंस कि हमारे यहाँ गवर्नमेंट चेंज होने में बहुत दफा फॉरेन इंटरवेंशन होती है।
हम्म
We saw कि every single person who has been in the government after a certain while start focusing on the nuclear program,
या
and they made sure that they like how much the intelligence would know, how could keep things secret, how to make sure. And I was going through this process when जब 98 में वाजपेयी की government आती है and they do the tests. Those 15 days that Pakistan decides to do the test, the way they were operating, I think it's the most secretly we ever did anything in our life was those 15 days. The way everybody was operating, the way they were living in ये यहाँ से वो उसके जो है लेक जो ट्रेन थी उसके डब्बों में ये रहते रहे. They
हम्म
take parts and then they put them together all there. So I feel like कि अगर वो they are somewhere, even I'm not even talking about if they're close or not. If they are working on it, this will give them more incentive to keep working on it, especially after what happened in the last couple of days.
या दे विल बिल्ड इट। पाकिस्तान इज अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल। पाकिस्तान और ईरान जो है वो एक लिहाज से बहुत। अब पाकिस्तान में अगर हम देखें, जस्ट लाइक यू सेड, लाइक वी हैव हैड लाइक 4 गवर्नमेंट्स इन दैट ड्यूरेशन,
Yeah.
राइट? सो व्हाट डज दैट, और हमें हमें पता है लाइक वो जो चारों गवर्नमेंट्स थी उनका कोई आपस में कोई था नहीं, वो एक दूसरे को नापसंद ही करते थे, राइट?
Yes.
बट इस चीज पे वो सब कॉमन थे
और
बिकॉज
नापसंद करने की हद ये है कि आपको भुट्टो की जो गवर्नमेंट है, he was killed, he was
या
judicially murdered,
या
and 11 साल के लिए आप एक डिक्टेटर इंस्टॉल करते हो, और वो 2 साल के बाद ही इज लाइक आई नीड टू वर्क ऑन दिस प्लान.
या बिकॉज बिकॉज सर्वाइवल उसके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है ना। सो
यस.
पाकिस्तान में इट डजेंट मैटर कि किसकी गवर्नमेंट आती। पाकिस्तान उस टाइम पे नवाज शरीफ ना होता, हुएवर हैड बीन रूलिंग ओवर पाकिस्तान एट दैट टाइम, उसने वो का
टेस्ट करना
कोई भी
था.
कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना नहीं करना था, और उसने वो टेस्ट करना था। डिस्पाइट उसके हमें जो सैंक्शंस वगैरह फेस करनी पड़ी, उसके बावजूद वो स्टिल होना था। लाइक इवन इफ वी wind clocks back to those times, still whoever is the ruler at that time, they would still, despite knowing कि sanctions का क्या impact होगा, they would still do it.
There's actually this line. I think he had his national security advisor. He was sitting with his national security advisor, and he was sitting with chief of army staff. And he asked both of them, "What do you think we should do?" And the chief of army staff said that we are ready. If you say yes, we will do it because everything is put together. But again, if you are the leader of the country, you have to decide what are you thinking. Like that was the conversation they were quoting. And he turned to his chief of advisor and he said, "What do you think?" And the guy said that survival की कोई कीमत नहीं होती.
Absolutely.
And I think it's not even a patriotic thing to say, but it makes 100% sense to me because again, survival doesn't
नहीं,
have a cost.
सारी सारी चीजें साइड पे रख दो। इट्स एब्सोल्यूट लाइक लॉजिक सेज कि ये होना चाहिए। एंड व्हाई पीपल से कि आप ईरान को नहीं रोक सकते, क्योंकि लेट्स एज्यूम लाइक द वर्स्ट सिनेरियो, लेट्स सपोज के यूएस की स्ट्राइक्स वर लाइक 100% सक्सेस। आपने
Hmm.
उनका यूरेनियम जो मटेरियल था वो भी डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया, आपने उनके सेंट्रीफ्यूजेस भी डिस्ट्रॉय, आपने उनके साइंटिस्ट भी मार दिए, राइट? बट हम लोगों को ये चीज़ पता है कि जब एक चीज़ 40 साल तक सस्टेन कर लेना, विच इज़ द लाइफ ऑफ देयर न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम सो फार, तो उसका एक पूरा इकोसिस्टम बन जाता है, उसकी एक पूरी नॉलेज बेस बन जाती है उस कम्युनिटी के अंदर, जिसको आप 100% आप एलिमिनेट नहीं कर सकते। सो द
Yes.
ओनली थिंग दैट यू कैन डू इज यू कैन कीप पुशिंग दैट। और इस सारे ये जो पिछले 12 डेज वॉर हम इसको जिसको बोल रहे हैं, इस सब के बाद there is a greater chance Iran would move towards a nuclear weapon. By the way, a lot of the people do not know Iranian Supreme Leader का फतवा है 2003 का, where he declared कि कोई भी weapon of mass destruction जो है उसकी इस्लाम में इजाज़त नहीं है, right?
Yeah.
So that is what they had been sticking with so far. So they are enriching uranium. They are preparing themselves to be able to make the weapon, but they are not making the weapon. What
It's-
happened in the last 12 days might push them through that distance.
yeah,
Okay, because there is this legendary investor Charlie Munger. उसका एक quote है, "Tell me the incentive, and I'll tell you the outcome."
yeah,
So the incentive here is कि उन्होंने देख लिया है कि if you do not have that, like वो देखते होंगे नॉर्थ कोरिया की तरफ, यार इनके पास कुछ नहीं है, इनको कोई अटैक नहीं करता.
yeah.
So the incentive is there to go towards that, and I think that they're gonna go towards that.
मैं आज एक दोस्त से बात करी थी और उसने मुझे एक बात बोली विच हिट मी इज के जो है जब आप पार्ट ऑफ एनपीटी हो तो वी हैव ऑल द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बट नन ऑफ द एडवांटेज
Yeah.
तो वो लाइक दैट मेक्स 100% सेंस राइट
Mm-hmm.
कि आप जिस तरह से आपने आपने अगले को दिखा दिया है
Yeah.
कि ये टेलर है
Hmm.
इफ यू डोंट गेट दिस इज
This
व्हाट वी
might
गोना
keep on happening,
कीप ऑन
right?
हैपनिंग तो आई थिंक लाइक वो रीइंफोर्समेंट लर्निंग का एक लॉ होता है ना
Yeah.
आपने अगले को पूरा जो है क्यूरी रिवॉर्ड सिस्टम दिखा दिया है अब
Yeah.
उनको पता है कि दिस इज इफ दे डोंट डू इट दैट्स नॉट गोना मेक सेंस एंड ऑनेस्टली लाइक आई थिंक एनीबडी हु वांट्स टू लर्न about what is going to happen has to literally just sit down and study Pakistan from 70s to 98 when we did that and
Yeah.
every single step and you see it has so little to do with patriotism and has a lot to do with your survival instinct
Yeah.
because anybody who's gonna come to power he could be the biggest puppet installed by any other foreign intervention would be like what will I be ruling over if this place doesn't exist.
Absolutely. तो जो जो भी रूलर बनेगा, I would go as far as saying कल को आप रजा पहलवी को भी इंस्टॉल कर लेते हो ना,
नहीं
even
नहीं
he would build it.
100% 100% 110% I completely agree to this क्योंकि आप उसके मैं भी रिसेंटली एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री देखी तो मैंने काफी अर्से पहले भी देखी थी रजा पहलवी के बारे में जो उसका his father the party that the biggest party of the century that they threw and that caused his a lot of his demise and people get to see कि अच्छा यार ये तो इसको तो फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता कि लोग इतने बड़े इकोनॉमिकल क्राइसिस से गुजर रहे हैं और ये पार्टी थ्रो कर रहा है व्हेन आई वाज वाचिंग दैट तो उसको भी बेसिकली क्यों लेकर आया गया था क्योंकि हिज फादर वाज समथिंग दैट दे डिडंट सी हिम द राइट पर्सन एंड देन ही वाज इंस्टॉल्ड
Mm-hmm.
while his father was sent like to exile और आप देखते हो कि एक सर्टेन पॉइंट के बाद everybody started thinking कि अच्छा यार there would be nothing to rule over
Yeah.
वो भी मतलब एट द एंड वो भी बैठ के पब्लिकली जो है लोगों से नेशनल टीवी पे उसने माफी मांगी है बिफोर द रेवोल्यूशन हिट कि जी मैं मानता हूँ मुझसे गलती हुई है मैं मानता हूँ कि मुझे ये भूल गया था कि इस कंट्री में मुसलमान रहते हैं मुझे ये भूल गया था कि मेरे लोग इकोनॉमिकल क्राइसिस से गुजार रहे हैं एंड यू सी these things happen ये बड़ी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड चीज है अब इवन आप वो सामा बिन लादेन वाली जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री है वो देखें उसमें there's something that they say and I don't know why they don't learn from it but they say कि हमने इस बंदे को कन्विंस किया कि ये हमारा डबल एजेंट बन जाए और तालिबान के पास जाए और ये करे वो करे बट यू नो and then that guy comes in and he blew up the whole
Suicide. Yeah.
CIA base. But they say something there and they're like, you're expecting somebody to betray their own. That's always gonna be a biggest risk because you never know at one point they'll flip.
Yeah.
तो वो वही वाली बात है. I think it's
Yeah. That's a perfect example.
yeah. So yeah, let's see where it goes because I honestly believe now that it's gonna give them more incentive to work on it, and that's also exactly what the far right in Israel is saying कि तुमने जो है ना you left what they did say. Well, I think Urdu में it would be better. It's like आपने जख्मी शेर छोड़ दिया और आपको लग रहा है कि कुछ भी नहीं होगा अब.
they're gonna build it. Like I'm 100% sure. Like
Yeah,
you have created all the incentive.
yeah.
Right. Since we were discussing Raza Pahlavi, I think a relevant topic is the exclusive that Washington Post ran this week when they leaked the ऑडियो कॉन्वर्सेशंस जहाँ पे कुछ मोसाद एजेंट्स हैं जो फारसी के अंदर आईआरजीसी के जनरल्स और ईरानियन जो आर्म्ड फोर्सेस हैं उनके जनरल्स को थ्रेटन, ये बाय द वे है 13 जून की, जिस दिन
थर्टी
इन्होंने, बल्कि शायद उससे भी पहले 13 जून को ही उनके हाथ लगी हैं, तो प्रॉब्ली उससे भी पहले की है.
उससे पहले की है रिकॉर्डिंग से।
तो दैट टेल्स वन थिंग कि the moment they went into Iran, they had this idea in their mind कि हम regime change के लिए push करेंगे right from the day one. It wasn't like कि along the way जाके 3-4 दिन के बाद उनको नजर आया कि oh we might run with this thing as well. उस conversation में basically कुछ मुसाद एजेंट्स हैं जो थ्रेटन कर रहे हैं जनरल्स को उनके, हमें पता है आप कहाँ हैं, हमें पता है आपकी फैमिलीज कहाँ हैं, इफ़ यू डोंट लिसन टू अस देन उनको ख़तरा हो सकता है, ब्ला ब्ला. सो बेसिकली वो लाइक ओपन थ्रेट्स. और उसके बाद बदले में वो क्या मांग रहे हैं, वो मांग रहे हैं बेसिकली कि आप एक वीडियो मैसेज रिकॉर्ड करें जिसके अंदर आप लाइक डिफेक्ट करें अपने फोर्सेस से और ये एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से, रजीम से, लाइक ओपनली इसको आप इससे लाताल्लुकी का इजहार करें. और सो आई वाज जस्ट थिंकिंग लाइक सच अ पर्सन, लाइक जिसको इस तरह की थ्रेट आ रही हो, तो वो दैट पर्सन अगर अगर वो मान भी जाता है तो ही इज नॉट गonna सर्वाइव. लाइक वो उस रजीम में रह रहा है, और अगर वो उसको लाइक डिनाउंस करता है, लाइक इस तरह की कोई वीडियो वगैरह मैसेज बना के, आई डोंट थिंक ही इज गोना सर्वाइव. सो व्हाई वुड, लाइक अगर उस बंदे को पता है कि मैंने मरना ही है या मेरी फैमिली ने मरना ही है, तो वो मुसाद के हाथ से हो या रजीम के हाथ से, तो आई आई डोंट सी लाइक उसके पास कोई भी इंसेंटिव था कि वो उनके उनके थ्रेट के ऊपर जो है वो डिफेक्ट करता. और दैट्स व्हाई वी डिडंट सी एनी सच क्लिप कमिंग आउट, राइट.
नो वी डिडंट। और यही चीज ना, वो जब रजा पहलवी ने, एक तो उसने पोडियम रखा हुआ है जिसपे वो खड़ा होकर लोगों से बात करता है, जिसमें वो लगता है ऐसे कि वो किसी को एड्रेस कर रहा है और रूम खाली है। इट्स वेरी सिमिलर टू जब वो कोविड हो रहा था ना, तो प्रियंका चोपड़ा वाज बीटिंग द प्लेट
या
and looking at her lawn, like a big luscious lawn in LA.
या
That
इट
was
साउंड्स लाइक जो
very
जो उसके क्लिप आते हैं, लाइक नरेंद्र मोदी अ लॉट ऑफ द टाइम्स ही इज लाइक, जब भी वो कोई जहाज से उतरता है या कहीं से उतरता है, ही इज लाइक वेविंग, तो ऐसे लगता है कि सामने पता नहीं कोई क्राउड है या कैमराज हैं.
closing.
तो आई हैव सीन लाइक कुछ क्लिप्स जहाँ पे उस वो जब वेव कर रहा होता है तो कैमरा सामने मूव करता है और सामने कुछ नहीं होता.
कुछ नहीं होता। तो बिल्कुल उसी तरीके से उसने वहां खड़े होके उसने एग्जैक्टली यही बातें रिपीट की हैं जो मोसाद के एजेंट्स कह रहे हैं कि जी तुम लोग जो है, जो आर्म फोर्सेस के लोग हैं, उन्हें चाहिए वो सरेंडर कर दें, मैं उनको जो है आई गिव देम अ फेयर ट्रायल।
राइट.
और जो है अगर ना, अगर आप हमारे साथ होंगे तो हम ये करेंगे वो करेंगे। दैट वाज लाइक अ होल प्लान दैट ही लेड आउट। एंड अगेन लाइक हु मेड यू द, who died and made you the in charge? Well, his father did, so apparently that's what he thinks about himself. But yeah, so initially plan तो यही था। और वो आप उसकी एक्टिविटी भी आप जब देखते हैं पहलवी की, कि जो during this whole time the way he was acting and the way he was trying to, like, they got him to address the nation that is not listening to him, don't want him, but like he's like मैं address कर रहा हूँ and all of that. It was very, I think they were testing the waters
Possibly, but
to see कि क्या
I
response है।
don't think ground prepare हुआ था, but they still tried it. I
Yeah,
don't like, ना ना कोई हमारे पास ओपन जो है वो लोगों ने डिफेक्ट किया, ना जो है वो आ, हमने कोई लाइक अपराइजिंग देखी कि लोग बाहर निकल रहे हैं, और जंग में लाइक कौन निकलेगा बाहर.
mm,
I think it was always a long shot. I don't know how confident they were, but it was a long shot.
But I think it's also one of those things, right? कि आपने uh, mm, I think it's they wanted to do the Taksim Square. They wanted to do the 71 of Pakistan, Bangladesh. They're like, if जो है अभी कर दिया तो अनरेस्ट तो पॉलिटिकल अनरेस्ट तो था बांग्लादेश में उस टाइम पे दे टुक अ चार्ज एंड आई थिंक अभी जो मोदी ने किया देयर वाज सम thing that somebody posted and I was like Modi wanted this to be his 1971 when he attacked Pakistan because he thought that if we have a political unrest, there will be a civil war that could start. And I think that's what they were expecting. They were expecting कि लोग रोड पे थे और अगर हम ये करेंगे तो वो दोबारा रोडों पे आ जाएंगे.
या बट आई थिंक उनकी तरतीब बिल्कुल गलत थी लाइक वो
Mm-hmm.
उनके पास
I think
ग्राउंड रेडी
sentiment,
नहीं था दे जस्ट ट्राई टू
yeah,
run with it and it didn't stick as we saw. Um, that concludes this, as Trump called it, the 12-day war.
yeah. And he
Um,
just posted about how BB and him has been through hell and people should not be mean to him.
yeah, now he's like kind of coming out in his defense. Probably it might have been asked because काफी strong sentiment आ रहा था even Israel से भी Trump के against. So I think he is probably trying to soften that and also
Mm-hmm.
in the process helping Netanyahu who is definitely like very unpopular in
Yeah.
his own
I
country.
Yeah, definitely. And I need to stop calling him BB. I don't know him personally. I don't know why I keep using it. It just started as like sarcastic thing and now I'm just going with it.
I don't know where does this nickname come from. Like every
I think it's part of his name.
his name is Benjamin Netanyahu. He has a middle
Yeah,
name.
this like
Whatever.
why do
Why are we discussing him? Um,
people call Netanyahu BB? Apparently it's a very asked question. Has an oh, it's a nickname. Yeah, I should not say that. Why I'm
yeah,
saying it?
yeah, uh,
I started sarcastically and now it's like a
yeah.
thing.
Right. So that is pretty much it. And in other news, Zohran Mamdani has won the Dems primaries, and he is most likely going to be the mayor of the New York City. And people
Okay,
are losing.
they should.
Yep.
So, just
And a lot of the people have been openly racist on the
oh yeah, we
Dems.
found out how many people are racist so quickly. So थोड़ा सा background है इधर. एक this first is about democratic and Democrats primary. So basically जो nomination system है यहाँ पर, I'm going to be use very layman terms here, not going to go into technical detail, but because a lot of people are tweeting that Zohran Mamdani is like a New York mayor. He's not yet. We will find out by the end of this year when the general election happens. So currently,
या बट न्यूयॉर्क क्योंकि डेमोक्रेट्स के पास रहता है और
बस
उनका
होता है.
कैंडिडेट वो होगा तो दैट्स व्हाई.
Yeah. So basically what happens is कि आपके पास जो है हर पार्टी के अंदर internally they have primaries and then you are supposed to rank them and that decides कि कौन जो है will become the nominee of it. So वो internal elections थे जिसमें एक high number of people ranked Mamdani while he was fighting with the establishment of Democrats like a status quo. So you have Como, you had like there's this lady as well, but you have Lander who basically lent his support and endorsed Mamdani. So आपने एक बड़ी interesting सी चीज देखी which is a Jewish guy and a Muslim guy supporting each other in New York City, which is a boiling like a it's a hot pot where you can see the very like extreme diverse society in New York. It's and uska what is interesting is because this state was swing to Republicans in the national elections. Um, and a lot of people have voted for Trump, is drastically moved to Mamdani. And if you look at Mamdani's profile, he is uh, the one thing that they keep on talking about how Obama was born in Africa. Mamdani, it's not a rumor. He was born in Uganda. He
Yeah.
is his parents are Muslims, Guju Muslims from Gujarat who flee the crisis that happened thanks to BJP and the Modi, the butcher of Gujarat, and and he grew up in New York. His wife is a Syrian. Um, his mother is a filmmaker. His father is a very respectable academic who all of them have been on Gaza's case from the day one. He have co-founded chapter of Palestinian freedom. I think Palestinian freedom or Palestinian rights during his college. Um, he most and I think one of the most interesting thing is his campaign. Uh, so a couple of years ago, I remember reading Michelle Obama's book Becoming, and she detailed how they ran the campaign. And I think you recently have been started reading the Obama's book. I haven't gotten my hand on it yet. Um, it's one of like what Obama did or not. The campaign they ran is one for the ages to look
Yeah.
at. Like it was an amazing campaign. Like उन्होंने कोई door ऐसा नहीं था जो कि they didn't have knocked. Like they traveled through the country. They went to meet people. There were times that and what was like for me, what was very interesting, and I was talking to a friend who has a political family in Pakistan. So I was talking to him and I was telling him that it's such a good a way to see this because most of the people who ran their campaign were their closest friends who took either time off or quit their jobs and came and joined this campaign. So they not only believed it, but they also believed on the vision so much that they were able to hold them accountable through the campaign. So nobody gets to be distracted. People had this real straightforward goal that
Um,
once
yeah.
they decided that they want to do it, it made sense. And then you see that with like Mamdani now. People who are running for his campaign are either his very close friends or the people he has been in protest with. Like I think media timelines then filled that with people who were saying, "Oh, there was this protest happening for trans people. Mamdani showed up. I invited him. He came." Oh, there was this protest for cabbies a couple of years ago where he did a hunger strike for 15 days for those people. And there was this girl. She was like, "Oh, I was there with him, and I was like, I'm so happy to vote for him now." The cabbie he was protesting for voted for him. So there are a lot of people, and then you see the completely drastically different agenda. And we will definitely in future will definitely talk about the positive, the pros and cons of his point, but very socialist agenda, very leftist. He's saying all the right things.
Mm-hmm.
He is not shying away from well the globalize the intifada.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
He also commented about like if Netanyahu comes to New York, they're gonna arrest him.
they're gonna
He has
arrest
very
him.
openly talked about Narendra Modi
Yeah,
vis-a-vis his involvement in the Gujarat riots back in the day.
and yeah, and again, second largest population of Jews outside Tel Aviv,
Yeah.
and
New
it's
York.
and yeah, New York, and you see apparently, and that's also a thing because what I was looking at the analysis is that the mostly the young Jewish population is sick of Gaza war. They really are okay with Zoran running on these, and they are ready to like vote for him. So
Yeah.
let's see
So
what journal.
so
Yeah,
the thing that he's targeted for mostly is, and again, like my feed might be different. Most of the people are criticizing the socialist part,
yeah, yeah.
socialist, and some would say like so socialist that it's just more to being a communist. Some
Hmm.
people would say that, and then like there are some of the people who are like outright racists, and they like people who do make racist remarks on Twitter, but a lot of the times I've seen that a lot of the people that do that, they do not have their own display picture. They are running
Well,
some
sitting
anonymous account or
congressmen
whatever.
and women senators.
Yeah, like uh I th- I don't know if there is like a racism index, but if there is, it must be peaking now.
Yeah, oh, definitely. There was somebody posted a picture of Statue of Liberty with a burqa on and said that this is good. This is wild. And somebody posted a picture of his wife, and I was like, dude, this is wild. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, somebody posted saying that, oh, he might have, and New York has ranked a guy who might have celebrated 9/11. I was like, what?
Yeah, people are just like making things up and like running it, whatever.
It's
Like,
gonna be it's gonna be a very, very nasty couple of months for him. He's already getting death threats.
wow. Um, yeah, whatever. Like जो भी लोग हैं, whether you like him, आप socialist हैं, capitalist हैं, जो भी हैं, बंदा popular है और बंदा हो गया है, तो बर्दाश्त करें या पास करें. जैसे ट्रम्प को भी बर्दाश्त कर रहे हैं बहुत सारे लोग, तो आप भी कर लें. It's that thing. We will
And
see.
Trump thinks he doesn't look good.
ट्रम्प को अपना हेयर स्टाइल देखना चाहिए. ट्रम्प के beauty standards, you can tell from the way he uh, presents himself. Okay, let's call it a day. It was a good. I think it's a good news that we have had this peace in the Middle East again. Hopefully, we go
Hopefully
towards
we
something
see
similar for Gaza and
Gaza, hopefully.
eventually for Ukraine as well.
Yes.
Um, okay, we will call it a day and we will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys. Bye.